Oklahoma's superintendent, Ryan Walters, had catapulted into the national spotlight by fighting the culture wars. He's going to fight against the woke, the left-wing indoctrination of our students, which is just basically, teaching kids basic facts and to, respect each other. Oh my God, what horrible. Ooh, scary, scary. But it appears that Walters himself has not exactly benefited from doing this. And not only that, but neither have the students. Turns out Oklahoma's education not doing very well. And then now you've got people in his state that are starting to sour on Mr. Walters. This is according to an editorial published by the Oklahoman, where columnist William Wirtz writes that Oklahomans begin to realize, in the words of Gertrude Stein, there wasn't much there when it came to the claims of liberal indoctrination in schools. Yeah, no kidding. Of course, right? In fact, he writes, only a scattering of books that parents wouldn't have wanted their children to see were ever actually found. Teachers and school superintendents spoke up to defend the process by which books were chosen and the right of local schools to make that decision. The Oklahoma Supreme Court later ruled that the law was on their side. Nevertheless, Walters doubled down by doing things like, for example, supporting a state-funded Catholic charter school, which I'm pretty sure is, not supported by the First Amendment, defending an anti-trans bathroom ban because, of course, and other things that didn't address actual real problems, like terrible test scores coming out of his schools. The things that matter. Wirtz writes, some began to wonder whether Walters' actions were aimed at improving Oklahoma schools, well, they're not, or winning a spot in the cabinet of presidential candidate Donald Trump, maybe even becoming his education secretary, which he didn't. That went to Linda McMahon. Because Linda McMahon, wife of the wrestling guy, WWE owner, former, knows everything about running the nation's education system. More like running it into the ground, but, oh, well, that makes more sense then. But anyway, using his state expense account, getting back to Walters, he hired a public relations firm to help get bookings on conservative TV programs. Yes, this is all about helping Ryan Walters get to be more well-known so that Ryan Walters gets more, cred in the conservative sphere, and gets more opportunities to help Ryan Walters fatten his bank account. But now it seems that the political winds may have shifted, and that maybe the boat of public approval has sailed in a different direction without Walters on board, Wirtz writes. What do you mean? Wait, what? Now, look, despite his efforts, Walters hasn't been elevated at all. And just like that, the conversation then turned from, it's too woke in the schools, right? To, what we need to do? We need to make education better because Americans, and this is according to both Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, Americans are too stupid to do tech jobs. No, that's not true. Americans just don't want to work 60, 70 hours a week at very minimal, as minimal amount of pay as that they're willing to offer, okay? And then not allow these tech billionaires to basically control their lives, which they could do to H-1B visa holders. And so that's what that whole argument's about. So that said, Oklahoma clearly is not doing their kids justice. Okay, they've got really, really low test scores. Their education system is an absolute disaster. And of course, what did they try to do about it? Walters, he tried to ban books and ban books and ban trans people and do all the culture war nonsense, which has absolutely nothing to do with education. Wirtz also points out that in his 2022 campaign, Walters had mentioned having more accountability and transparency. But That was before. As superintendent, he had changed the school's grading process, something akin to moving the goalposts to make the game easier, and threatened to fire any employee of the education department who shared information with the media. The guy literally is like, oh crap, our grades are terrible. I know. Let's grade in a curve so that my schools don't look that bad. Literally grading on a curve. Oh, that's a disaster. Here's the thing though. How do you expect your students to learn if you're not allowing teachers to actually teach facts? I mean, when you're out there passing edicts that not only curtail, teachers unions, fight against getting good paid teachers, because let's face it, we do not pay teachers enough in this country to do what they do. Okay, not giving them enough resources to actually do what they need to do, and then telling them that they'll be fired for, like, if they accidentally use pronouns or something. What did you expect from education if you're not actually spending the money wisely? Okay, Wirtz writes that state legislators campaigning in the 2024 election reported a wide range of voters concerned with the fact that higher state spending on education wasn't moving the needle, because it's how they spend the money that matters. It's how they spend the money. You actually have to foster an environment of learning and opening people's minds. But you can't open children's minds if all of your stuff comes from the most closed-minded of people. Okay, it just doesn't make any sense. Oklahoma has remained stubbornly stuck near the bottom of state educational performance rankings, said Wirtz. The article also notes quotes a Republican state representative, John King, who said recently that, quote, "When I see how few of our students are performing at grade level, that's an alarm. It's a blaring alarm. And we need to focus on that." Yeah. I mean, you guys did that, though. You built that. You created this. But not only is are the politicians obviously speaking out and saying, wow, this has been a complete and utter unmitigated disaster, but also regular people. One poll conducted by the Oklahoman, readers were asked to help Walters decide what to do after failing to win appointment to Trump's cabinet. 97% picked an alternative. Get real. Forget the cultural stuff and launch a major campaign to help public schools in their efforts to improve math and reading scores and be prepared to succeed in life. A later poll was asked to give Walters a grade for his performance in 2024, to which thousands had responded. About 95% gave him an F. Oof. Fail. Many commented on his failure to focus on real improvement in students' math and reading scores, and frustration with his failure to celebrate the accomplishments of teachers and local districts and share widely their lessons for improvement. I have to say that this is kind of what happens when you elect a culture warrior to, lead the schools instead of someone who actually wants to make, education better, because there absolutely are ways to improve education. Okay. And a lot of it does start with the teachers and being able to support your teachers so that they can better educate the students. You kind of start there and seeing what works for teachers and what works for students and what helps not just their test scores, but helps them actually retain the information that they're being taught and helps them be able to critically think and apply these things to real world scenarios that they'll actually need. But no, can't do that. No. Instead, culture warrior. That's the only thing that Walters knows how to do other than own the libs. And that's really what it is. Educate students. How does that increase reading and math scores? How does that help me own the libs and raise my profile? No, it doesn't. But here's the thing. We've seen this all across the country. Okay? The anti-woke people being thrown out of office. But Jeff, didn't Donald Trump just win? Didn't the Republican Party just completely crush Kamala Harris and the Democrats in this national election? Yes, they did.
You probably know Vistaprint for business cards, but did you know we print everything you need to brand your business? We print banners and signs that help you stand out, and must-have merch like tote bags, t-shirts, and hoodies. Right now, new customers can get 25% off with code NEW25, because if you need it, we print it at Vistaprint.com.
Actually, but you know what? It was based on economic issues. The price of eggs, the price of gas, inflation, you know? The vast majority of people did not vote for Trump because they were impacted by woke, okay? No. But what about the trans stuff? Kamala Harris barely defended trans people. And the Democratic Party, after the election, after they lost, went in on blaming trans people for their loss, instead of doing some reflection on maybe we should have done more economic populism. They focused on the consultants and the donors, okay, their suggestions, which led Kamala Harris campaigning not with Sean Fain of the UAW, but with Liz Cheney. And of course, they ignored big, bold, progressive economic ideas. Because of course they did. They ignored the fact that, hey, the American people actually want us to, want the government to help to guarantee people health care and to take on big corporations to make the rich pay their fair share. That's it. It's economic issues. People do not think government is doing enough to help them. And they're not. It's true. Instead, what the government is doing is fighting too much against the woke. Well, fighting against woke isn't going to help you afford your rent. Okay? It's going to help the people afford the rent. It's not going to help them afford groceries. It's not going to help your kid get a good education. And people know that. And yet you have politicians like Ryan Walters who were elevated on their promises to fight against the woke. And well, turns out these people, one-trick ponies. When you give them actual power, they don't really use it to do anything good. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, subscribe, hit the bell icon in order to get notified whenever a new video is released. And if you want to support independent, progressive media through this difficult time where it seems like everybody is shutting down, you can become a member on our YouTube page, you can become a subscriber on Facebook, or you can go to my Patreon. Patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf. Thank you.